Downloadable content in video games is a much debated topic, which is understandable. DLC is essentially something that companies use as a way to earn some extra money after the initial game purchase. Whether you feel like you're being nickel and dimed, or in the worst case scenario, feel forced to buy DLC in order to get a complete gaming experience, a lot of us usually still end up getting add-on content here and there. Because sometimes you just gotta put some cat ears on your favorite characters, or put them in some skimpy outfits. Instead of focusing on the negative side of downloadable content, we're going to take a look at Nintendo's DLC strategy, which I think is generally rather good. The problem with a lot of the worst add-on content is that you don't feel like you're getting much value. In terms of video gaming, there's almost nothing worse than being sold a seemingly incomplete game and having to pay more money to get something that feels like it should have been part of the game to begin with. Nintendo doesn't seem to go that route. I'm sure there are other companies that do something similar, but we'll just keep it Nintendo for today, since they have many first and second party made games that follow that formula. If you want to, you can post in the comments if you know of any other non-Nintendo examples. I don't think Nintendo's doing anything wildly different on a conceptual level, but it's all put together into an attractive Season Pass-based package. I know that the term downloadable content and Season Pass are an almost evil combination of words, but there's some important things in play that make the formula work. First of all, the games don't feel incomplete without DLC. I've had Breath of the Wild, Splatoon 2, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for quite a while now, and never did I feel like I wasn't getting my money's worth. In fact, as of this video, I only got the Octo expansion and Zelda DLC bundle a few days ago. The worst thing a developer can do is create a game that immediately makes you regret your purchase. A somewhat recent example of this incomplete game phenomenon I've experienced was with Senran Kagura Reflections. It's a fan service game on the Switch and PC. If you don't know, the game is basically about getting all touchy-feely with ninja girls. I did a review which you can watch if you're interested. The problem is that only one character is available and you have to spend $10 or so, depending on what your currency is, to get the 4 other characters. That's $10 each, by the way. The game itself is only $10-ish, but it just feels kinda wrong having to buy a game in increments like that. The second thing is Nintendo's focus on ensuring that DLC for their high-budget first and second-party games have some sort of expansion pack, instead of getting caught up with trinket and doodad add-ons. Like I said earlier, I don't mind buying an outfit here and there, but I never feel like I'm getting something really substantial for my money. And spread across several months or years of spending a few dollars here and there, it's easy to spend a considerable amount when you add it all up. Expansion packs offer so much more value and only cost around $30-ish Canadian. Some games allow you to blow that amount of money on in-game items and weapons. To me, buying weapon DLC in some cases is like paying a couple of dollars just to tweak the game balance. You can just set the game to an easier difficulty level. That's free, you know? The third element of the formula is how the DLC is packaged into an attractive bundle. Nothing revolutionary, but here's why that works. Since bundling is a great way to reduce costs, it makes the overall price of the expansion pass cheaper while still retaining value. It's about finding the balance in order to package as much cool stuff as possible. Nintendo is using this technique, I guess you can call it, to try and ensure that people don't have a sour taste in their mouth after spending money on their products. And I think for the most part it works. Point number 4 is the staggered release dates of the content. If you look at the various expansion passes, you'll notice that the items, weapons, outfits, and things like that are released earlier, and the expansion pack is the last one to be released. That has a number of effects. The people who buy the games just as they come out are essentially being guaranteed a timeline of extra content, which makes it easier to convince someone who likes the game to fork over the cash for the DLC pass. It also means that it's easier for Nintendo to keep the game in public consciousness. Games usually sell the best right at release, and then the numbers decrease as time goes by. But by staggering DLC releases, you can flatten that curve and make it drop off less steeply. But the key is that all this DLC is bundled together. Of course, there's DLC schedule with a lot of different games, but the point is that it's all bundled together in a package. As each little add-on gets released, you'll hear, see, and read about it. Whether it's a gaming journalist vomiting out another triumph of literature, a YouTuber doing a video, or friends talking with each other about it. The whole point is to get people buying the bundle or pass because it reaches its full value over a period of time. Making the pass the best value for most people means that more people will pay attention to each gradual release. If you prepay for something, you'll probably want to see what it's like once it's released, right? Alright, that's enough theory, everyone. It's time to head over to the next classroom where we'll get a little more hands-on. So what we're going to do now is take a look at individual games, since not every game follows the points I mentioned earlier in the exact same way. There are exceptions. Just to review real quick, the 4 points are: make a complete game, focus on expansion packs with a lot of content rather than just a few items, bundle everything together and make that the most attractive option for potential buyers, and finally, stagger the release dates of DLC in the bundle to delay the drop-off in interest for as long as possible. Let's take a look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2 first. This one checks all of the marks, so it's a good first example. Does Xenoblade 2 feel like a complete game? It sure does. It definitely doesn't feel like they're skimping on content. Is the add-on content focused towards an expansion rather than smaller items? Yes. There are smaller DLC, extra items, quests, and new rare blades, and also a new challenge mode. But the expansion, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna, the Golden Country, isn't only a mouthful, but a proper standalone game. It's a prequel to the base game and can be played independently. You can also get a physical copy of it, which includes the download code for the other Xenoblade Chronicles 2 items and quests and things I talked about earlier. Is everything bundled together? It is. In fact, except for the free Japanese voice pack, it's not possible to buy each DLC individually. Lastly, are the release dates staggered? Yes, and it all builds up to the expansion. The ramp-up is important. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild approaches things in a slightly different way. It still meets the feels like a complete game requirement. I doubt the game would have had so much acclaim if most people didn't believe that to be true. The focus is definitely towards expansion packs rather than the little things here and there. There's 2 packs that are part of the expansion pass, so you could argue that it's double bundled, and the release was staggered. Unlike with Xenoblade, the Breath of the Wild add-on stuff isn't a standalone game. I think it would be a bit unrealistic to expect that for every game. What I think is interesting is that the extra content you get isn't just extra game modes and quests, but it also includes items that eliminate some of the grind. For example, the travel medallion allows you to set a fast travel point if you need to constantly go somewhere that isn't near a shrine or a tower, and the Korok masks help you find Koroks. Since there's, 900 I think? It's almost 1,000 anyways. That's quite a helpful thing to have. I think that sort of thing is good for people who've already spent a ton of time in the game. Because if you're several hundreds of hours in, sometimes you just don't want to deal with some of the repetitive hassle. It's also good that Nintendo decided to release the content in 2 bundles. That way you get a whole bunch of things at once, and you choose whether you want to find the armor, do the sword trials, or play through the Champion's Ballad questline. Since the base game is all about choosing what you want to do, the way they released the DLC makes sense. Having each individual thing be released one by one wouldn't have been as fun in my opinion. The game Splatoon 2 totally does not follow a lot of the points we just mentioned, which is why I'm mentioning it now. There's just one expansion pack called the Octo expansion and nothing else. So no bundling or staggered releases. You could argue that the clothing items are technically bundled into the expansion, since you unlock stuff as you play through the campaign, but since it's a multiplayer-driven game, perhaps they didn't want to release item DLC just to avoid people complaining that you have to pay to win. That's my theory anyway. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is interesting because it's like the opposite of Splatoon 2 in a way. You can get all the challenger packs and Mii costumes separately, though not all of them are out yet at the time of this video. Maybe they think that a lot of people just won't go for the Fighter's Pass and are more likely to just get 1 or 2 characters? I'm not sure. Perhaps since it's a fighting game, an expansion pack like you'd see with games from other genres just isn't possible. That being said, the Fighter's Pass is still the best value if you want to get everything. Lastly, the latest Fire Emblem game, Three Houses, seems like it'll follow the Nintendo DLC formula more closely. So far there's only the Officer's Academy uniform that's available, but the last thing that will be released next year is additional story content. According to the description, it will include additional playable characters and locations, so it may very well be an expansion. We'll see. So yeah, that seems to be Nintendo's DLC strategy. Like I said before, I'm sure other companies do something similar, but I guess the reason why Nintendo specifically caught my attention was because how prevalent their games are on their own platforms. And you can see their philosophy spread across a lot of games. I think it's a good way to handle add-on content for video games, and it's interesting to try and analyze a company's strategy. In fact, a lot of times these videos are quite enjoyable for me to make. I guess sometimes speculating can be quite fun. Thank you to all the Patreon supporters. You can be on this end card too and get some other perks like early access to videos. Check the link in the description and also the top right of the screen. If you want, you can also follow me on Twitter and a couple of other places on the web. That is also all in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.